Hello everyone, this is Summer85 and I'm excited to welcome you to my YouTube channel. Today I'm glad to introduce the first part of my big tutorial on creating low-poly/low resolution graphics inspired by the aesthetics of PS1, PS2 and PC games from the late 90s and early 2000s. In this video we will start diving into the world of retro gaming graphic style and create a few assets for a model room, such as a nightstand, a table lamp and a landline phone. You will get practice with low poly modeling, UV unwrapping and creating low resolution textures. I will try to explain each step in detail so that in the end you will achieve approximately the same result you saw at the beginning. This tutorial is intended for absolute beginners, but I think it will also be interesting for those who already have some experience. In this adventure we will use Blender and Photoshop. But before we start, I want to say thank you to everyone who supported me all this time, left the comments or just watched my videos. It's incredibly inspiring to me. I had never thought about creating tutorials, but many people asked about it and I decided to give it a try. So, thanks for pushing me. I don't think I would have decided on it myself. I also want to apologize in advance for my English if it sounds strange or not entirely correct. I tried very hard. Well, let's get started. For those who open Blender for the first time, I would like to explain some of the basics. To skip this part, just use the episode breakdown in the description of this video. All my keyboard actions will be displayed at the bottom left. And let's start from rotation around the object. To do this, hold down the scroll wheel and move your mouse. To zoom in or zoom out, just scroll your mouse wheel. If you hold down Shift first, then hold down the mouse wheel, you can move in space left and right or up and down, like this. Combine these three options to move wherever you want. Just practice a little. I use two methods to move the objects. The first one is probably the easiest. You need to go to the gizmo menu and activate Move option. Now, after selecting an object, you can simply drag it in the direction you want, using the control arrows. The second method requires you to press G on your keyboard, but if you want to move an object along only one axis, press G, then press X, Y or Z. You can also press G, then hold down the mouse wheel and move it in one of the directions, like on rails. Left click to complete the action. This method is especially useful when you are very close to the object and cannot see the control arrows. To rotate an object, press R. If you then press X, Y or Z, the rotation will occur along a specific axis. You can also activate rotation in the gizmo menu, but I personally feel better when there are only arrows here. Now let's talk about scaling. To do this, you need to press S on your keyboard. To scale along a specific axis, press S and then press X, Y or Z. You can also select the desired axis when scaling, by holding the mouse wheel, as in the case of moving. For example, if you need to scale an object along the x-axis, this red line, first you place the cursor a little to the side, then press S, then hold down the mouse wheel and drag to the right in this case. The same with y-axis, just move around a little, like this. There is one more thing I want to show you, but first let's delete all the objects like camera, light and the cube. You can select them by left mouse, like this, or just press A to select all, then press X to delete. And now go to the menu at the top left, select Add, Mesh and Monkey. In addition to free rotation around the object with the middle mouse held down, sometimes it's very convenient to look at this one exactly at right angle and different sides. In Blender it works by using numbers on the numpad keyboard. So number 1 switches us to front view, number 3 to side view and 7 to top view. I personally use this often. In case you don't have a numpad keyboard like me, you can emulate it on your main keyboard. To do this, go to top menu, Edit, Preferences. Click Input and enable Emulate numpad. And make sure you have autosave preferences checked so you don't have to do it again in the future. You can now use the numbers on the top row of your main keyboard. And one more thing for those who work on Windows, since I personally use Mac. If you see Command here, consider it Control, and Option implies Alt. For your convenience, during the process, I will try to say everything what I'm pressing, at least in the first stage. Okay, let's remove the monkey and finally start doing something more interesting. In the description of this video you will find a link to the files I prepared for this tutorial, so please download it. The first, we will model the nightstand. All the basic objects are located in the Add menu, but I will use the keyboard shortcut Shift-A to open it. Let's create a cube. Press N to open transform settings on the right side of the window. By default, our cube dimensions are 2 meters along all sides. We will try to create objects in real scale, so let's change dimensions here. Hold down the left mouse and drag from top to bottom to select all 3 lines, then enter 0.5 or just 0.5. It will be the same. This shortened version works as well. Press Enter to confirm. Let's change the proportions a little more. The y-axis 0.4 and z 0.35. This is the base of our nightstand. Now press 1 on numpad to switch to front view and move the cube approximately 2 cells high from the red line. I like to hold Ctrl key while moving to snap to the grid. It looks like it's moving in small steps. Now we will place it exactly on the line. Just change Z value of location to 0.375. Next, let's create a copy of this cube. Press Shift D, then try drag it below along the Z axis with holding mouse wheel. And left click to confirm. Change the dimensions of this copy as I do. X and Y 0.05 and Z 0.2. This is the leg for our nightstand. Let's now snap it exactly to the bottom of the cube, somewhere from this angle. Activate Snap at the top and select Face option in the drop-down menu. Now drag the leg up until it sticks. Disable Snap and bring back to Increment. Of course, such precision is not important in this case. You can simply move this leg up by eye and not to bother. But I wanted to show you this option if you really like order. Now press 7 on the numpad for a top view and move the leg closer to the corner. Something like this. I hold Ctrl again while moving to snap to the grid. In this case, if you want to accurately snap the object's position to the grid at the end, it's important to release the left mouse button first and only then release Ctrl. Let's move closer to our leg and switch to Edit mode in the upper left corner, or just press Tab on your keyboard for this. In Edit mode, you can work with individual vertices, edges or faces, move, rotate and scale them in the same way as any objects. Switch to the Face Select option here and click on the bottom face to select it. Press 1 for the front view, then S for scale. I hold Ctrl while doing this and I got 3 small steps. Now move it a little to the left. Here I hold Ctrl again and I also got 3 steps. After completing the action, release Ctrl last. Press 3 on the numpad for a side view and move it left the same distance. Now let's delete one polygon that we don't need at all. Press slash for isolation mode and select the top part. Actually, I don't know the exact name of this mode, so I call it isolation mode. Press X and select faces to delete. Press slash again to exit this mode. Press Tab to exit edit mode. One leg is ready. Let's add the rest. Go to Modifier Properties, that blue wrench icon. Click Add Modifier and select Mirror. You probably have a newer version of Blender, so you need to go to Generate and look for Mirror there. Now in the Mirror object line, click on the eyedropper and then on the cube. Also enable Y-axis to add another couple of legs at the back. You need to understand that actually we have only one leg, and the rest are just projection from the mirror modifier. Now let's do one more thing. Select all by pressing A, then press Ctrl A and select Scale. This is important to avoid problems with UV unwrapping and some other function in the future. Let's not go into this now and move on. It's time to save our project. Go to the File menu and Save. Later, you can simply press Ctrl S as is usually done. Let's start UV unwrapping. This is a stage before texturing, similar to how a tailor creates and places paper patterns for future clothing on fabric. There is another example with a box, but in our case, this is not exactly what we will be doing. In the beginning all of this may seem difficult, but don't give up. Select the main part only. All this time we worked in the layout area. And now let's switch to UV editing in the top menu. On the right side is the standard window in which we worked before. On the left is the UV editor window, and here we will place individual faces of the object in 2D format. This is the default unwrap, exactly what I showed before, but we will create other. Note that we are in edit mode, face select, and all sides of the object are selected. Press A if they are not. Now let's go to UV menu, where you will find various unwrap options. They are usually used depending on the situation. And now we need cube projection. You can see the changes in the left window. At this moment all the faces are lying on top of each other like a stack of papers. Now we will arrange them differently. Please note that only the faces selected in the right window are displayed in the left window. That means if we deselect them by clicking on the empty area, everything will disappear. And if we select one face, only that one will be displayed on the left side. Let's first select the sides and back. You can do this in the usual way, selecting the faces one by one while holding Shift. But I will also show you another way. Activate X-ray mode, which makes your object transparent. Shortcut Alt-Z. You can also scroll top menu and find it there. And now you have the opportunity to select all three faces at once. Please note that each face has its own origin point, these black dots. And when you need to select the faces in X-ray mode, it's important to capture exactly these black dots. You can also switch to the side view, 3 on numpad, and select them this way. Okay, in the left window you can zoom in the usual way using the mouse wheel. To move the work area, your mouse wheel must be held down. Let's select our parts like this, or just press A. To move these parts, press G or enable this option in toolbar at the left to use the arrows. Move it outside the work area for now. Rotate counterclockwise by pressing R. Hold Ctrl while doing this to rotate exactly 90 degrees. Left mouse to confirm, and only then release Ctrl to keep the angle rotation. Now select the top and bottom parts. And here drag them up. Select everything in the right window by pressing A and arrange all the parts as I did, additionally using scaling. It's important to leave some free space from the edges and between individual parts. Please note that I made the side and back parts smaller, about 3 cells wide, since they are not so significant. We rotated them to save even more space for the rest parts, front and top. This front part of the nightstand is larger, since there will be more details on it. Let's exit edit mode by pressing tab and select the leg. Press tab again, then switch to the front view and press A to select all the faces if you don't. Go to UV and this time select Project from View. This is another option that I use often. Please note, in this case, the result in the left window depends on the viewing angle in the right window. So, if we change it like this and click Project from View again, we will get a different result, which is incorrect in this case. Therefore, this method involves using the numbers on the numpad to get the correct angle. Move it a little to the side. And now it's important not to scroll the mouse wheel in the right window, as this will also affect the outcome of the individual parts. Switch to the side view and select just these side faces. Then go UV, Project from View. OK, now press A to select all. It should look something like this, on the same scale. Let's place them on top of each other. And you can do this roughly by eye. But in our case, let's learn how to place them exactly on top of each other. Go to Snapping at the top and in the drop-down menu select Vertex. Then hold down Ctrl and try and move it again. Now they are like one. Even if you get very close, it will still be perfect. Select all and place them somewhere here. Now in the right window, press Tab to exit Edit mode and press Alt-Z to exit X-ray mode. Let's select the leg, then go to Modifier Properties at the right and click Apply for Mirror Modifier. And after this action, these are not mirrored legs, so you can work with separately if you wish. Let's combine this all together with the top part to make one object. Hold Shift and click on the cube. Then press Ctrl J. Now let's press Tab again, then press A, and you can see that all our elements are displayed in the left window. Select the legs and place them somewhere here, leaving some space on the right. And let's finally give this object a normal name here. Double click, Nightstand. Then press Enter to confirm. And don't forget to save your project. Ctrl S. OK, now in the left window we will go to the UV and select Export Layout. I will call it Nightstand _ UV. Next, let's go to Photoshop for texturing. Let's create a new document with a resolution of 128 by 128 pixels. Of course, you can set a higher resolution, but I'm just trying to get closer to PS1 style or something like that. I'm sure someone will say that even this value is too much for PS1 style nightstand. In any case, you can experiment with this. Open the window with your newly created UV map and drag it just like this. Now open the folder that you downloaded for this tutorial and find the nightstand PNG file there. Open it as a separate window. Let's first zoom in on this image. I hold down Alt and scroll with the mouse. To move the work area, I hold down Space. I also made a text file with some shortcuts that I use in Photoshop if you're interested. Look for the Photoshop hotkeys. OK, let's take the rectangular selection tool and select it like this. Then drag it to the other window. Let's place our UV map at the very top and turn on the multiply mode for this layer. Select the wood texture, then press Ctrl T and make it smaller, like this. It's important here that the image goes beyond the UV parts. Even 1 pixel will be enough. At this moment I hold Shift to push it from one side only. Now let's deselect it with Ctrl D. Select another piece and repeat the same process with the top part. Next, make a copy with Ctrl J, then press Ctrl T and rotate it 90 degrees while holding Shift. Copy it again and place it where the leg is. I will select the leg area like this, then press Ctrl J and delete the bottom layer. Now let's hide the top layer with the UV map and merge wood layers except the front part using Ctrl E. Next, open hue saturation settings with Ctrl U and try to make the same shade as the front part. I got these numbers. I will make the side part and legs a little darker. Next, I merge the wood layers and also change the color. Now let's give the texture more sharpness. Create a copy, go to Filter, Other, Custom, and reduce the opacity of this layer by about 40%. Of course, all these values depends on the specific situation, so feel free to experiment in your personal projects. Let's also add a texture here for the future handle. We will model it later once we get back into Blender. Drag these two more color swatches and place them ruggedly like this. I painted this in advance so as not to torment you with it now. Close the reference image, we don't need it anymore. Now we will try to add some details using the pencil tool with the size of 1 pixel. Press right click to change the size. I usually do this on a new layer so I can reduce the opacity or change the color later. To draw straight lines like me, just hold Shift. You can draw whatever you want here, the main thing is to understand how your UV map is organized. Okay, let's select all the layers while holding Shift and merge them with Ctrl E. Now save the texture as PNG file. I'll call it Nightstand _128. Let's go to Blender and assign our texture. I will switch to the layout area, since there is more air. Now go to Material Properties, click New to add a new material, then click on the yellow dot next to the base color and select Image Texture from the list. Then open your texture. It's ready, but we don't see it yet. That's because we are currently in solid mode, which is well suited for modeling. To see the textures, you need to switch to the next mode, Material Preview. Okay, but let's make some more settings in Material Properties. I will rename this material to Nightstand. Let's scroll down and change Roughness to 1 and Specular to 0. We don't need any reflections for our retro style graphics. Already better. But now you can see that the image is a little blurry. I saw some games on the Nintendo 64 and the textures looked pretty much the same. I also remember that the graphics in some retro games on PC had a similar look. but I like when the pixels are clearly visible, which is typical for the PS1 style. To do this, just change linear to closest. Very nice. Now let's create handles for the drawers. Press Shift A, Mesh, Cylinder. Next, click here at the bottom left to open the settings and change the number of vertices to 6. Scale it and switch to side view. Then rotate it 90 degrees while holding Shift. I will scale it a little more and place somewhere here. Let's switch to the front view and rotate it again, this time 30 degrees. Place it in the center of the drawer. Now let's copy the texture from the main part to handle. Hold Shift and click on the cube. It's important here that the cube is selected last as the main object. Press Ctrl L and select Link Material. Looks strange for now. Select the handle only and switch to UV editing to fix this. I will also change viewport shading to material preview in this window. In the front view, select this face. Go to UV, Project from View. Then place and scale it on the left side, something like that. Now switch to the top view, hold Alt to select the faces around. UV, Project from View. Place this element like I do. Now we will scale it vertically. Place the cursor a little higher, press S, then hold down the scroll wheel and compress it. Then place it as I did. Next, select the top half, like this, and just move it up on the UV map. Let's go back to layout. Select the handle, press slash to isolate, select the back face in edit mode, then switch to side view and scale it like this. I also move it to the left. Now press X and delete this face, we don't need it. Press slash to exit isolation mode. I will move it a little closer to the drawer. The handle is ready. Now in the front view, let's make a copy with Shift D and drag it below. And let's combine everything into one object. Select the handles by holding Shift and select the main part last. Press Ctrl J to merge all of this. For example, I just now had an idea to add something like tabletop overhang to this nightstand to give it a more retro look. And this is not a problem. At the same time, let's look at the extrude tool. Let's switch back to solid mode so as not to be distracted by the texture. Press Tab to edit mode and select the top face. Now if you press E and move up, you will see new geometry is being added. This way you can add details and model more complex objects. I will undo the last actions with Ctrl Z. Leave the top face selected. Let's switch to the front view and zoom in to the corner like this. Press E to extrude and hold Ctrl to move it up exactly one cell. Confirm the action with the left mouse. Then press S to scale a little, press E to extrude again, and move it up 2 cells while holding Ctrl. As a result, you should have overhang like this. Now let's switch to material preview. If we look closer, we will see that the pixels here are just stretched. Let's try to fix this somehow. Go to UV editing and activate X-ray mode for transparency. Before the next step, make sure your front view and side view are in comfortable position and that the object does not extend too much beyond the window. Or at least so that you can select the origin points in the center later, without additional scaling or dragging the workspace. Okay, we need the front view. You can also switch to solid mode here if you want, but I will stay in material preview. Now select the newly added faces like this, capturing only the front and back. Then go to UV, project from view. And after the section, try not to scale or move the work area on the right window. Switch to side view and select faces the same way. UV, project from view. Now all the overhang faces are projected to the same scale and in the same location. Select the faces like this and check it in the left window. Actually, I might have overcomplicated things here, and you might end up with one part shifted relative to the other. In that case, switch the selection mode to island in the top left, then select one part and move it as needed. Now disable overlays to hide everything except our nightstand. Shortcut for this option is Shift-Alt-Z. Rotate our view like this so that we can see the angle. In the left window, scale it and look for where it's best to place them, while looking at the right window. I will put it somewhere here. Very good. And don't forget to save your project. Ctrl S. We could stop at this point, but I would also like to mention a phenomenon as painted shadows or baked shadows if they are created automatically with ambient occlusion. As far as I know, in most of PS1 games, using dynamic lighting was not possible due to technical limitations, and all the shadows were just drawn on the textures or added by painting vertices. That's simulated. Now we will try to add them here under the overhang, on the legs and shadows from the handles. This can be done in Photoshop, but let's try to draw them right here in Blender. Switch to the texture paint area in the top menu. And the first thing we will do is change the display mode to hide world lighting and any shadows. In solid mode, click the drop-down menu and select flat. By default, we have the brush tool selected. We can adjust its radius here, but it's also convenient to change the size by simply holding down the F button and moving the mouse left and right. We can also adjust the strength. I'll set this value to 0.3 for now. Here you can choose a color, let it be dark gray, and change the blend mode from mix to multiply, like in Photoshop. And before we start drawing, press Tab to edit mode and select the front face. Then press Tab again and enable the paint mask to draw only on this face. Let's also hide the overlays so we can clearly see the entire texture and nothing more. Shortcut Shift-Alt-Z. Okay, switch to the front view and try to draw the drop shadows from the handles. From time to time I change the viewing angle to see how it looks. If something goes wrong, you can always undo the action with Ctrl Z. Of course, it's easier to draw with the graphic tablet, but in this case it's not a difficult task, so you can get by with the mouse. It just takes a little practice. This is what I got. Now let's draw a shadow directly under the overhang. And this time we will use the Fill tool. Make the same settings as with the brush before. And here on the right panel, in the Active Tool tab, change the color to gradient, and below change the stroke method from space to line. This will allow us to draw a gradient at a 90-degree angle. Switch to the front view and try to add a shadow while holding Alt. Now let's draw the same shadow on the side and back. Switch on Overlays, press Tab and select the back face. We will draw on the back, and this will be duplicated on the sides, since we have these elements in the same place on the texture map. Press Tab again and hide the overlays. Now switch to the back view by pressing Ctrl 1 on the numpad and try to draw the same shadow as on the front side. Hold down the Alt key for 90-degree gradient. I will also add them from the left and right to make the corners stand out. OK, bring back overlays, press Tab and select the leg like this. One face will be enough, since all the parts are in one place on the texture map. Press Tab, hide overlays and draw the shadow. And now to save the changes to the texture, go to Menu Image at the top left and save. Or if you also want to save original texture without shadow, click Save As. And I'd like to say that we have finally finished with the Nightstand. Congratulations on reaching this point. The whole process may seem very confusing and lengthy, but in reality, as you gain more experience, you can do similar things much faster. Now save your project with Ctrl S and let's move on. Next we will create a table lamp. I always notice them in the movies and really like the pleasant atmosphere they create. I'll switch to the front view and press Shift A, Mesh, Cylinder. We should have 6 vertices left from the last time. I will reduce it while holding Ctrl, and I get these values. Let's place it on the nightstand, then press Tab for Edit Mode and Alt Z for X-ray. Select the top part and lower it like this. Now leave it for a moment and create another cylinder. And here in the settings, increase the number of vertices to 8. Next I will change the dimensions in Transform menu. Move it up somewhere around here. Switch to Edit Mode, select top and bottom faces and delete them. This will be the lampshade. OK, exit edit mode and let's go back to previous cylinder. Press Tab and select the top part. Then press E to extrude. I take 4 steps while holding Ctrl and scale something like this. Extrude it again to about the middle of the lampshade. Let's also delete this top face. We don't need it anymore. And now we will complicate the geometry a little. Let's place our cursor at the middle of the lamp base. Press Ctrl R to add a loop cut. You can see this yellow line. And then if you scroll your mouse, you'll be able to add more loop cuts, but for now we need only 2. Left click to confirm and then move them a little below. Select this one and scale it a little. Exit edit mode. Now let's move on to the UV unwrapping. Select the lampshade and switch to UV editing area. Let's also hide our nightstand here at the outliner. And on the left side of the window, close the texture to clean this area. Also click here to edge select. Now we need to select these 2 edges from the sides. Then go to UV and select Mark Seam. Or you can also press right click to open this menu. This way we tell Blender how to split the object during the UV unwrapping. And usually it's better to place such seams in less visible places. Now press A to select all, then go UV, and this time we need the first option, unwrap. In the left window, first change selection mode to island, then just left click on the one part and move it exactly above the other while holding Ctrl. If you remember, we have vertex option selected in Snap to do such tricks. OK, select all of this, hold Ctrl and rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise. Then scale a little and place it, leaving some free space around. Now let's narrow our lampshade from the top so it will look cuter. We only did this now because otherwise the UV unwrapping would have been more difficult. Of course, the texture will be slightly distorted, but in this case it's not critical. Next, we will unwrap the lamp base. Hide the lampshade for now, switch to edit mode and face select. Press A to select all the faces, then go UV Cube Projection. Now select this top part and move it outside. Then select this bottom part, scale and place it like this. This is the face that no one will see, so we'll just put it here. Select all and drag it down. Next, select this part as I do, and this time go UV Smart UV Project. Change angle limit to 0 and island margin to 1 to spread out these parts. Now we need to stack them on top of each other. I don't know if this can be done in one action, so I will do it manually. Why I am doing this? I just want the texture to be drawn for only one face and duplicated for the rest. Now I select one part and move it to the other. while holding Ctrl for snapping. Additionally, rotating if necessary, until I put it all together. After that, I'll press Tab, bring back the lampshade to add it to selection, press Tab again, then scale and place all these parts something like this. There is still some free space here, but I intentionally made this part smaller so that the pixels can do their job later. Now go to UV, Export Layout. I'll call it table lamp _ UV. Let's save our project and go to Photoshop to create a texture. Create a new document with a resolution of 100 by 100 pixels. Then, like with the nightstand, find the UV map and drag it here just like this. And immediately change blend mode to multiply. Now open table lamp PNG from reference folder. Here, where the crop tool is located, press right click and select Perspective Crop Tool. Then make a selection like this and move the bottom points to match the shape of the lampshade. Press Enter to apply. Drag this image and place it under the UV. Press Ctrl T and transform it as I do. I will also stretch it a bit and cut off the unnecessary parts. Now let's hide the layer with the UV, move your cursor to the lampshade thumbnail, then hold Ctrl and left click to make a selection. Create a new layer. I use shortcut Ctrl-Shift-N, select Fill tool, and while holding Alt, pick a yellow color with the eyedropper tool somewhere here. Then fill it and change blend mode to multiply. Press Ctrl E to join these two layers. Now I will open hue saturation settings, Ctrl U, and change values something like this. Then go to Image, Adjustments, Curves, and adjust it to about 190. Here you have complete freedom and you can move the sliders as you like. I'm just showing you my way. Next, I'll create a new layer, change blend mode to multiply, and use the gradient tool to add some shading on the top and bottom with brown color. To draw a gradient at a 90-degree angle, just hold Shift. I will also create a new layer and draw black lines around the edges for more contrast. Finally, merge all layers that belong to the lampshade. Okay, let's get work on the lamp base. Create a new layer and activate the UV map. Then, using the selection tool, I choose the second option here. Make a selection covering all the parts. Then fill it with a dark color. I pick it from my reference while holding Alt and left click. I will make this layer a little more transparent for now, so I can see the UV map better. Create another layer and change blend mode to multiply. Now, using the selection tool and gradient tool, I will add some shadows. Here it's important to understand which parts of the UV correspond to the location on the model, in order to draw in the right places. Then I will create another layer and make a gradient with the second color example, to simulate the light from a lamp. Next, create a new layer again and try to add some small details using the pencil tool set to 1 pixel. This way I'm drawing some additional geometry, something like a circular grooves. New layer again, pick a black color here and draw a couple more lines. Opacity to about 40. This looks strange right now, but later you will see what it was for. Just try to follow along with me. Now I will restore the opacity of the bottom layer. Let's hide the UV and also add some noise to this texture to make it less clean. Create a new layer and place it above the others that belong to the lamp base. Make a selection of the black fill layer. Hold Ctrl and left click to thumbnail. Fill it with the second color from reference. Then go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. And change blend mode to divide and opacity to 15. Then merge all the layers with Ctrl E. And lastly, let's add some sharpness to this image. Make a copy with Ctrl J, then go to Filter, Other, Custom. And set the opacity to 15. Now save your texture as PNG file. And let's look at this in Blender. Let's assign the texture first to the lamp base. I'll switch to Layout. In the Material Properties, click New and give it a name. I'll call it Lamp Base. Then change Base Color to Image Texture and Linear to Closest. Open your texture. Below set Roughness to 1, Specular to 0. Next select the lampshade and add a new material. I'll call it Lampshade. And now we need to go to Surface and change Principle BSDF to Emission, since our lampshade should glow in the dark. Then as usual, click to yellow dot and select Image Texture. And now you don't have to open the texture again, just click here in the left and choose it from the list. Finally, change Linear to Closest for sharper pixels. Let's activate the Nightstand. Very nice. And now if you switch Viewport Shading to the last option, Render Preview, you will see that the lampshade is glowing due to the emission texture. I'll make the background color a little darker in the World Properties. And this will also affect all our objects, as it's something like a global lighting. Let's now create a light source and move it inside our lampshade. Shift A, Light, Point. From the front view, I'll place it somewhere here. From the top view, a little forward. And let's disable shadow in the object data properties. I will now intentionally simulate a situation where there are some problems with the texture. For example, these white lines around the edges. In this case, the image was placed too close to the edge of the UV map and does not cover the necessary area. This is easy to fix. I'll switch to UV editing, select the lampshade, press Tab to edit mode, and select all by pressing A. Also hide overlays. From the left side, open the texture here and change the selection mode to vertex. Now you can see that my UV map goes beyond the edges of the image. I just need to select the vertices and move them a little. At the same time, I see how it changes in the right window. That's all. Next, let's enhance the texture glow inside of the lampshade. Switch to the shading area in the top menu and change viewport shading to render preview. In this area we can additionally adjust materials using geometry nodes. It's quite a broad topic, but we won't stay here for long. In this window we can zoom in or zoom out with the scroll wheel and move the workspace by holding the middle mouse. You can also move individual nodes or select several if needed. Select these elements, press Shift D to duplicate and place them below. Next, press Shift A, go to Shader, Mix Shader, and place it between emission and material output. Press Shift A, go to Input, Geometry. Connect this bottom texture to Mix Shader and connect geometry from backfacing to the FAC input. After that, you can adjust the intensity of glow from the inside. I'll set the value to 7. Okay, let's switch to layout. And now it's time to combine the lamp base and the lampshade into one object. Select them, press Ctrl J and give it a name at the outliner. Very nice. Table lamp is ready. I also want to tell you about the texture update. For instance, if I want to make change or fix something in the texture again, I go to Photoshop and bring in my idea to life. I want a dumb red lampshade. I need mystics. After that, merge layers, press Ctrl S, go back to Blender, and now to update the texture you have several ways. The first one is the most inconvenient. When you go here to Folder and reopen your texture file. I tortured myself with this way for a long time until I discovered others. You can just go to the UV editor, place your cursor on the left side of the window, then press Alt-R and voila, the texture is updated. Bloody lamp, different mood. In fact, there is another option that I use. It's Auto Reload add-on. You can find the link in the description of this video. After downloading, go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons. Click Install and locate the downloaded zip file. Once installed, type Auto Reload in search and activate it. As a result, it appears in the top right. Simply activate the timer to make it work. This add-on is especially useful if, like me, you often jump between Blender and Photoshop to check how the texture look. I'll probably leave the yellow lampshade this time. In Photoshop, undo the last actions and resave this. Then open Blender and the texture updates automatically. It's ideal when you have a second monitor and can see changes in real time without switching between applications. Okay, I hope everything is going well for you and I haven't tired you too much with the details. Save your project and we will continue. In this part of the tutorial, we will create a landline phone, and this time it will be a more complex object than the previous ones. But before that, select your table lamp and light source, then press M to create a new collection. Call it table lamp and hide it for now in outliner. Now switch to solid mode and disable X-ray. Create a cube and change the dimensions like mine. Move it up to the nightstand I hold down Ctrl while moving to place it exactly on the tabletop. Then Shift D to duplicate this object, left click and move it a little higher. Let's hide the nightstand. You can select it and simply press H for this action. Now select this object, switch to edit mode and select the top face. From the front view, press E to extrude, and here I hold Ctrl to move it 5 cells up. Place the cursor a little to the side, press S to scale, then hold down the mouse wheel to scale only along the X-axis and move it to the left. I also hold Ctrl and I get 4 steps. From the side view, scale in the same way, then move it a few cells to the right. As you can see, I often use the Ctrl while moving and scaling to snap to the grid and get precise values. It seems convenient to me when it comes to modeling objects with clear geometry. Of course, you can do everything by eye if you want. I will also select the bottom face and scale it a little, like this. Okay, now exit edit mode and select the object above. We will turn it into a telephone handset. Let's scale it a little along the X-axis to make it wider. Then from the side view, scale along the Y-axis, like this, and move it to the right, to the middle that I show you now. Now switch to front view, edit mode, and press Alt-Z for X-ray. Then select the top part and move it up by 1 cell. Place your cursor to the center, press Ctrl R and add 2 loop cuts with the scroll wheel. Click your left mouse twice to confirm. Then scale them along the X-axis approximately to the line that falls on the corner of the lower object. Now select these bottom parts and extrude them like this. Next, I will switch to vertex select mode, select these corners, then press X to dissolve edges. I will also scale the inner part along the X-axis, something like this. Exit edit mode and move it down as I do. Select this main part and now let's carve out a recess for the telephone handset in it. Go to modifier properties, add modifier and select boolean. Here assign the object with eyedropper and click to our handset. Then click here to apply. It should look like this. Now switch to the side view, then select this part and scale it a little along the Y-axis. I will also select the handset and scale the top part like this. OK, disable X-ray, switch to the front view and move the handset up while holding Ctrl, so that you can return it in the same way to the same place later. And now let's change something and create a beautiful mesh with only quads here. Select these 2 vertices, then press J to join them with an edge. Do the same in the other places, like I'm doing here. Next, switch to Edge Select option and select these edges in the recess. Then press X and dissolve them. Very nice. This manipulations is not a strict rule in this case, but rather an aesthetic side. I just like it when everything is tidy. Let's also add here, I don't know what it's called correctly, buttons that depress when the handset is placed down. Switch to face select mode and select these 2 faces. Press I to insert a new face. Then scale it along the Y-axis, something like this, and from the side view press E to extrude until here. I will also scale this top part a little, along the y-axis. Someone might say, why complicate things if it won't be visible under the handset anyway? I agree, but what if you want the handset to lie separately on the nightstand? Or to create an animation where someone picks it up? So this way you have more opportunities. Let's also add here inside special face for future dial buttons. I'll switch to the top view. Now press K to activate the knife tool. With it you can add new edges like this and complicate geometry. So with the knife tool, move your cursor to the top edge, then hold down Shift to snap it to the middle, left click, then move it to the bottom edge, left click again and press Enter to confirm. Now switch to the edge select mode and select this new one. Press Ctrl B to bevel something like this, so that you end up with a square. Next we need to add a new face inside this one. We can press I to insert, but this is not exactly what we need, since we need a square. There is another way to do this. Press E to extrude, then press S to scale, something like this. And finally, let's merge some vertices to reduce the number of polygons. Select the first one, then hold Shift and select the second, press M to merge at last. And the same with the others. Okay, and before we move on to creating the UV, let's select these two objects, then press Ctrl A and select Scale to avoid some distortion during the UV unwrapping. Just take this action as a rule. Let's first select the main part and switch to UV editing window. I'll bring back overlays and change viewport shading to solid mode. X-ray is activated, and here change to face select mode. Also close the lamp texture in the left window. Press A to select all, and here I want to clarify some points. On the left you can see something like a default unwrap, which is incorrect. For example, if we select only this face, where the dial buttons will be, on the left it appears just a line. And if we select this bottom part, it also doesn't match its shape in the left window. Now if we select all the faces again, go to the left side, overlays menu at the top and enable display stretch, we will see that they are in different colors. And the green or yellow here means that everything is bad and the texture in these places will be stretched. That's we need to try to stick to deep blue. Let's now select this bottom part, and if you go UV and just select unwrap, you will see that the result is not very good. In this case, cube projection will be more suitable. On the left, change selection mode to last option, island, then scale and place this rectangle somewhere here. This is the bottom part and no one can see it. And this other part is actually 4 faces in a stack. Select all and drag it down outside the work area. Next, select this upper half and let's try to find the best option for unwrapping. UV unwrap. Oh no, it scares me. UV cube projection. It's already better with colors, but it's inconvenient that everything is in a pile. In this case, we will use Smart UV Project. And here at the bottom, let's change angle limit, for example, to 20 and island margin to about 0.110. If you are currently living in 2025 and have no limits on texture resolution, you can leave it something like this. But since this tutorial is about retro style graphics and we are somewhere between the 90s and early 2000s, where every pixel counts, let's try to use space more efficiently. We will try to fit this into a square with a resolution of 128 by 128 pixels. In general, UV unwrapping depends on the specific situation, and the logic is that the most important parts can be made larger on the UV map, especially if we are talking about retro style graphics. It's very impressive how game developers of that era could fit the texture of an entire character or even a level into a small piece. So we will strive for the same. Let's first join the similar elements. You can make it while holding Ctrl, but be sure you have vertex selected here. Or just activate snap and do it simply by the left mouse. And it's better to grab the circle, since it doesn't always work with the arrows. Don't touch small elements yet. To properly rotate this part, just right click and select Mirror Y. Now to avoid joining the small elements, press Alt Z to disable X-ray and select these two faces. Then press Ctrl and plus. This command adds the following faces to the selection. Then go to UV and Q projection. Join these two parts, then disable snap and place them like this. Move it to the side for now. Select all again in the right window. And now I will arrange everything based on how I will create the texture later. Select these bottom elements, rotate them while holding Ctrl and move them left. Then select these top elements and drag them outside. Now select this face where the buttons will be, go to UV and the last option, reset, to fill the entire work area with it. Then scale it while holding Ctrl to get 5 steps. And drag it close as possible to the corner, so that in the end it takes up exactly a quarter of the work area. Select all the faces and now try to arrange them as I do. Next, let's create UV for the handset. Select it, switch to Edit mode, Front View, and select all the faces. UV Project from View. Then select the bottom part, UV Unwrap. Hold Shift and deselect this middle face. Join the similar parts, then add this middle face to selection again and drag this all somewhere here. And the last, select this top part, UV Unwrap, and do the same as with the previous one. Then place it like this. Next, exit Edit mode, add the main block to selection, then switch to Edit mode again, and press A to select all faces. Now it remains to fill the free space with the elements of the handset. And finally, go to UV, export UV layout. I will call it phone_UV. Now save your project and let's switch to Photoshop to draw the texture. Let's create a new document of 128 pixels on each side. Drag and drop the UV map, switch to multiply this layer and set the opacity to about 25. Open phone reference image from the tutorial folder. Initially, I just wanted to cut out the buttons from a photo, like this, as I did before with other textures. And in many cases, this is a very good option. But then I decided that it wouldn't be difficult to draw it, to make them as sharp as possible. Besides, they are probably the most accent part of the phone. Of course, you can use the first way right now if you want. So first I fill the background with color from my reference. Then create a new layer. I will use the rectangle tool to create a button and set the size to 13 by 10 pixels. Then here in the properties, click to color and just pick it from the reference. Press Enter to confirm and close this window. Then right-click on this layer and rasterize. Next, select the pencil tool, change the color to pure black and set the size to 1 pixel to draw some volume for our button. I will create a new layer and also make the edge of the button a bit lighter from these sides. And rub a little with an eraser. Now join these two layers, then double click and add drop shadow option. I got these values to create a light shadow. Next, just copy the buttons horizontally, merge them, and then duplicate this row down 4 times as I do. Finally, merge all the buttons into one layer. Now let's create a new layer and draw the pixel numbers. I'll pick a light color from the reference again and draw the numbers at just 4 by 5 pixels in size. This way, even at such a tiny resolution, we will get the sharpest possible image in this area. I don't engage in pixel art like professionals do, but I really enjoy drawing things like this using the pencil tool. I will also draw something like a frame around it. And as I mentioned earlier, I hold Shift to draw straight lines. Now let's work on the rest. To help you better understand what's happening, I split the screen into two parts, Blender on the left and Photoshop on the right. I'll probably change the opacity of the UV map to about 50. Let's start with selecting these elements below. Create a new layer and fill it with some dark gray color. I'll just pick it from the bottom. And this part means what I'm now selecting in Blender. I usually create a new layer in Photoshop for each element. On one hand, it's not very convenient because the number of layers is growing and it can be confusing. But on the other hand, it makes it easier to change something later if needed. Next, I'll select this element, then press Ctrl U and change the lightness like this. This will be the buttons under the handset. I will also add some small details, something like a gap between plastic parts. and also the gradient. Here I draw the hole for this button. Here on the handset I want to add the small holes of dynamic and mic. From the back of the phone, I'll try to draw just some lines resembling ventilation slots. Okay, I also want to add some shadows. I will draw it on a new layer and change blend mode to multiply. I will use selection tool and gradient just with the color of background. And you can just copy the shadow for other elements. For the rest, I will use the soft brush. Now let's also add a texture from the reference to give it a slightly dirty look. I will change blend mode to hard mix and opacity to 5%. I also create a new layer, fill it with the base color, then go filter, noise, add noise. And change blend mode to color burn and opacity to 12. Here you can experiment and try different textures and blending modes, and I'm sure you will get a lot of interesting results during this process. Okay, hide the UV map, select all the layers and merge them. Then save this document as PNG file. Let's assign the texture. Add a new material, give it a name, then base color to image texture and open your PNG file. Let's immediately change linear to closest, roughness to 1 and specular to 0. Now switch viewport shading to material preview. And we can already see what needs to be fixed. Select this rectangle, hold Ctrl and rotate it clockwise. Very nice. I will also adjust some details. For this, it's better disable overlays. On the left side, open the phone texture and disable display stretch in overlays drop-down menu. And I will change selection mode to vertex. Finally, let's go to layout. Change solid mode to material preview. Select the handset first, then hold Shift and select the main part. Press Ctrl L to link material. I will move the handset down while holding Ctrl to place it exactly to recess. Let's also create a connection between the handset and the main part of the phone. Select the handset first, then hold Shift and select the main block. Press Ctrl P, set parent to object. Bring back the nightstand. And now when you move the phone, the handset moves with it automatically, as if it's actually resting on top. But at the same time, the handset can be moved separately. Place your phone somewhere here, close to the edge, and let's change the name in Outliner. Bring back the table lamp and connect the light source to it the same way. Now move it a little to the side. I'm sure for some of you this whole process seemed very confusing, but in this tutorial I try to share all my experience and show how I usually work. It would be great if even some of this proves useful to you in the future. At this stage I'll probably show you the render settings I usually use in my projects. First, let's switch the viewport shading to render preview at the top right and add some lighting. Press Shift-A to create a point light and position it to light up the front side of the nightstand. Then from the top view, duplicate it and move to the left side, something like this. You can also adjust the color and power of the light in the object data properties, but I leave it as it is. Next, press Shift-A to create a camera. And then I'll switch to animation in the top menu, since there is more convenient for me to work with the camera. On the left side, switch to render preview, then press 0 to the camera view. Now in this rectangle we can see gray background, just because the camera is pointed somewhere down by default. You can try to move and rotate the camera manually, like this. But there is another way to put it in the desired position. I will undo the last actions. Just find the position you like, for example like this. Then press Alt-Ctrl-0 to instantly snap the camera to the current view. And by pressing G, you can adjust the frame. Now let's go to the output properties on the right, and here you can set the resolution of your final render. By default it's set to Full HD. I will change it, for example, to a square format, 1080 pixels on each side. You can also adjust the distance from camera to object by pressing G, Z, Z to move it along the local Z axis. There are other ways to control the camera, but we won't go into that now. Perhaps I'll make a separate video about this in the future. Regarding the background, you can change its color in the world properties, but I'll leave it as default. Now we can go to render at the top and select render image. Or just press F12. As you can see, this is just a clean render. And maybe you'll be happy with it. But if you want to get more pixelated look, we need to do some additional settings. Let's go to the compositing tab and first enable use nodes at the top left. Here you can move this workspace by holding the middle mouse and scale it using the scroll wheel, just like in shading area where we adjusted the glow of the lampshade. Pull these nodes apart, then press Shift A to add a node and search for the scale. Place it on the wire, like this. Then press Shift D to duplicate it and place it to the right. Shift A again, search for Pixelate and place it in the middle. Next we need to change scale values. The first one to 0.5 and the second just 2. Finally, go to Render Properties at the right and here in Film tab change filter size to 0. Let's try to render it again. And now you can see that the image is more pixelated and sharper than before. I usually use these settings for my render, but we can make it even more pixelated. Let's switch to the second slot at the top of this render window to compare two render results later. Go back to compositing, select these 4 nodes, then press Shift D to duplicate and connect this new chain to composite. Now let's change the scale values for this option. The first one 0.25 and the second 4.2. Render the image again and now we have larger pixels. You can compare the renders by switching between slots. I often use the first option, but it all depends on the situation. To save it, go to Image and select Save As. I will reconnect the first chain of nodes to composite. And in the Layout workspace, I'll delete the camera and point lights since I don't need them anymore. I will probably end the first part of the tutorial here. To be honest, I never imagined it would take so much time and I would have to split it into several parts. But I wanted to make it as clear as possible for beginners. The second part of the tutorial will be available on my Patreon page in the coming days and will be released on YouTube much later. So if you want to support me and continue learning with me in the near future, please follow the link in the description. I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons who supported me at various points while I was working on this tutorial. Pars, Mixla, Takamori, 878, Henry Hefferman, Blue Jay 49er, Jinboy and Kane. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone for watching and see you in the next part.
Baker Lane, the old water tower, 8 p.m. And don't be late.